Yo, what's good? For this video, I'm gonna show you how I made this little beat here. I got my BPM at 95. It's gonna be like a West Coast beat, so more LA style. BPM 95. It's like it got some tempo to it, but it's on the slower side. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna start out. I used a loop for this particular beat. It's a piano loop that I found off of YouTube, and it sounds like this. So then on my own, I wanted to add you, so it's just not the loop playing. I added some things in the background. For example, I got this pad and I panned it all the way to the right. You feel me? I like to pan my instruments because it creates space within the mix. So this is how the pad sounds by itself. I use that, and then I pan to the left some vocals from Arcade. That's literally it. Those are the only instruments I'm using. The piano loop, some vocal chops, as you'll hear in a second, and a pad. And here's the vocals that I panned again all the way to the left. So again, it creates that atmosphere. I got in the left side of your headphones, you're gonna hear some vocals. In the right side, you're gonna hear the pad, and in the middle, you're going to hear the piano. You know what I'm saying? They all complement each other, but here go the vocals. All together, it sounds like this. And then for my drums, got the 808. I keep it real simple. I just need that bounce. You can keep the whole beat simple as long as it has a nice bounce and it has a nice melody, but it has room for the artist. That's the key. A lot of producers, they overlook that. They think they have to make this complex ass beat. You really do not have to make a complex beat. As you can see, I do have a lot of tracks. Sometimes I like to keep it super simple. I will only have a hi-hat, 808, open hat, clap, or whatever, you feel me, snare or whatever. And I'll just leave it at that. I decorated the beat with a little bit more percussion, as you can see. Like I got a Vox, I got a rim shot, I got a laser. But as you're gonna hear, I'll play all of the percussion. Each sound has its own pocket. Each percussion instrument, it's not like a bunch of clashing, like playing on top of each other. I intentionally put each, you feel me, percussive element in its own spot, in its own pocket within the, you feel me, the measure. You know what I'm saying? So again, I'm gonna have you listen to, you feel me, so I don't gotta really explain it, but you feel me? It's real simple. It's just get that bounce. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's it. Piano. Feel me? Yeah. You feel me? See how it's like everything supports each other. It's simple. It's really not too much going on. As long as you got the bounce, you got a nice little melody, some supporting elements, you feel me? Excuse me. As you can see the way I arranged it, so it's not, I got the piano playing, my bad. I got the piano playing for 8 bars. And then I got the percussive elements that That's kind of my style. That's my little sauce that I like to do with my beats. You don't have to copy that, but I like to every 8 bars something new happens. You feel me? Whether that be a melody change, whether that be new instruments coming in. Sometimes I like to have no hi-hat for the first 8, then I add the hi-hat for the next 8. You feel me? It's just different things to kind of play with the ear, and it keeps the listener engaged. You feel me? Especially when you have something like a loop that's just playing, which most songs do. I like to switch it up somehow. Maybe even the melody, that piano. I'm not going to do it in this beat, but for example, I could have half timed it. Maybe it's a regular loop for the first 8, and then I modify it some way, for example, like a halftime for the next 8. You feel me? Just to switch things up. You feel me? I'll just do a quick little something for the mix. As you can see here on Logic, this is how you mix each instrument. It's on this left side. This right side where my cursor is, that's the master track. On the left is when you can mix each individual track. I'll start from the top. For the piano, for the loop, I like to have my melodies around 10 to 14 for the gain. This one, I believe it's at 12. I like that 12 to 13 number most. Just with the way how I master things at the end. And then I just put an EQ on it. I cut out some low end. I felt like the loop sounded fine. Whoever made the loop already mixed it well, so I didn't have to really do anything. For my pads, I used Repro, Gravity Well in the orchestral pad section. All I did, I turned the fader down to negative 3.9, and I cut out some low end. I really keep things simple in my production. The simple, the better for me, you feel me? Again, this is arcade. I got the gain. It peaks at, I could have put a compressor on it. I didn't feel like it. It's cool. That's at 15. Again, this is more of a supporting element, so I don't need it to be super loud, and that's why I have the fader down all the way at negative 10. I put the gain down a little bit, so yeah, it's peaking at 15.4, negative 15.4. That's cool with me as long as it sounds good. EQ, I just cut out some low end. I also threw this on there. What this does, this Decimort 2, it downsamples. It gives the effect. Here, I'll turn it off real quick. This is what it sounds like without Decimort. And then with Decimort, it downsamples. All that means, well, I'm not going to go into the intricity of, shit, I can't even pronounce that, but you know what I'm saying. I'm not going to explain how it does it, but just visually, it's like adding a low cut, but it does it in a whole different process. And I like the process that Decimort does. Instead of just doing this, I use Decimort. If I want to do a low cut, I use Decimort and I downsample. It's literally taking out the frequencies. Instead of cutting off the frequencies and them still being there, I believe when it downsamples, it literally removes the frequencies so they're not there. And so that makes it more clean, more, it just gives it a cleaner sound instead of just doing a low pass filter. I mean, a high pass. But if you don't have Decimort, just keep doing this. Just high pass it. Cut out the high frequencies. It's a small difference. I like this, the way this one sounds, you feel me? Especially when I really just want to have shit sound like it's underwater. I like to use Decimort, but you could always just use the EQ too. What's this right here? Oh, yeah, this is some reverb. This is just reverb from Logic, the Quantec plugin. I threw that on there, and that's it. For the 808, I like to have my 808s good sound. If you have good sounds like from kits, I don't put an EQ, I don't compress, I don't do nothing. I'll use a multipressor in my master, but as far as fading, as far as individual track mixing, I just use a gain. And I put the fader at negative 1.5. That's where I like to have my 808 sit in the mix. Usually I like to do negative 1.5 to negative 2.5. That's where I like to have them sit. Most of the time, I'm at negative 1.5 on the fader. For my gain, Again, I'll tweak it. I usually have it. Some people like to soft clip in the mix. That's cool. Do whatever you want to do. Me personally, I like to, when I master the whole track as a whole, that's when I start boosting things. Um, but in my mix individually, since the sound, I already have a good high quality 808 sound, I actually have to lower it. That's why I use this gain, because it's so loud. I actually have to lower it. So most people are thinking, oh, I got to boost my 808s. Again, if you have a good sound, you really don't got to do nothing. In my case, my shit, whatever kid I got it from, they must have already soft clipped it hella, because I have to lower this shit or else it's too loud. You feel me? It's too disruptive and I can't hear anything else. So I lowered it to negative 8.5 on the gain and then negative 1.5 on the fader. For my claps and percussion, I keep it simple. I just cut out any lows and I just use gain and EQ for all of them. That's all I'm doing. It's nothing special, no compression. As you can see, I didn't compress anything because, again, I'll use a multipressor in my master. And on top of that, you got to remember, like, these artists are going to take it to the studio. As long as I can get it sounding good in the studio, they're going to ask for stems anyways. They're going to pay for that. And the engineer is going to then do whatever he got to do. He might compress, he might not, whatever. It's up to him at that point. So that's why I don't spend too much time if they're going to take the stems anyway. I just have to make sure, does it sound good in the car and on my speakers or my monitors, per se. And I know how to mix it to where it's going to sound good like in any environment, whether that be the car, speakers, you feel me, big speakers, little speakers, my phone, you with no speakers, I can play it off my phone. I'm still going to be able to hear everything. Like, that's how I do. That's the goal when I come to my mixing and mastering, is I have it sounding good on all types of audio devices. And I do that really with my mastering. I'll show you my little trick. This is what I like to do. So it's not going to sound as good because I'm taking all of the master plugins off real quick, but I'm going to show you something. If you look right here where my cursor is, see how it's at 0.1, 0.5 now? I look at wherever it peaks, and then I subtract negative 1.5 from this, and that's where I set my gain to create some headroom. Next, I use a linear phase EQ, cut out a little low end, boost a little of the frequencies, usually around like 1K, and I boost some highs. That's all I do. Next, I use a multi-pressor. This is Logic. I just go to the final pop compressor, and then I tweak it. You feel me? I'll just listen to it, and I'll tweak the low end a little bit. I might boost it, but I usually boost right here, the mid frequencies. That's what I boost most. I usually have this boosted more than my low end in terms of the master, because I also come here, and I might put some saturation on it. It says distortion, but down here, it's the saturator that I use. They also have a bit crusher. They have a whole bunch. They got, you feel me? But I use the soft saturation. That's the only one I use, as you can see. And I usually don't have it at 15 unless I really want it to be saturated. But usually I would just usually have it between 5% and 10%. But I turned it off. Usually, that's if I want saturation. Most of the time, I don't even like that sound. It's like too much, you feel me? Unless that's what I intentionally want to do. I want this beat to sound fucking crazy. Okay, then I'll put the distortion on, saturation. But usually down here is the soft clipper. They call it soft limiting, soft clipping. Same difference. And I usually boost it to 7 decibels. And yeah. So that's all this is right here. This Fat Effects and Logic is just a soft clipper. You could have it hard limiting or turn it off. But again, I use it as a soft clipper. This is how you do that. Everything else, like bass enhancer, you got LFOs you could fuck with, but I have all this off. I only use it for the soft clipping and sometimes distortion. That's it. And that's how it gets to sound like this. I'll turn it off again so you can hear the before and after. that's all there is really to it, man. Again, my biggest tips and advice I could give: keep it simple, create a bounce, have pockets for each instrument. Don't just start drawing in shit, you feel me, with no intention. Set up pockets, you feel me? Like, have a hi-hat play, then when the hi-hat cuts off, that's when you put another perk in there. You feel me? It creates that bounce. And you feel me? It creates something unique. It creates your own bounce, because the more beats you make, you're gonna start just finding little shit that you like doing as a producer. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you create your own bounce. You know what I'm saying? So percussion wise and 808 wise, get that bounce. Melody wise, you really don't got to do too much. In this case, I use the loop. Most of the time for my melodies, I'm using 3 to 5 instruments max. Max. I don't really go too crazy. You don't need to, again, because the melody aspect that you want is going to come from the artist, especially if they're singing. But even if they're just rapping, like, that's your melody. That's what people want to hear, is the artist. The production is really just to support the artist. You feel me? And it's just as important, but it's like the more you produce, the more you start understanding that shit. You feel me? So that's all there is to it. Again, this prophet got the profit, and I'm out of here.